you've been traveling for a very long time. How does someone think about saving when it comes to an year long or more kind of journey?
I think a lot of people make this mistake that they plan very detail oriented. This day we do this, with this day we do that, we book this, we do book that. Also a bad financial decision, because when you pre-book everything,
Didn't you feel worried about job security?
I think that's the thing that is limiting people from traveling. You need to be strong mentally. My wallet goes stolen, and my bag got stolen with a lot of stuff in it.
People always need connection wherever they are. Even if they are alone traveling, they would really want people to like treat them in a friendly way. Sometimes it's very hard.
So the primary reason of traveling to India, to your home country, was to dive deeper into the spirituality.
What is that kind of drive that is within you that wants to kind of like pack things up and start moving? So I have been wondering why my friend Vitas is never home. So last travel he took was 1.5 years. And when he got back home, I wanted to ask him, why does he do this? How does he think about traveling? So let's start by introducing Vitas. Who are you, Vitas?
Hi, Pranoy. Nice to be here. I'm Vitas. I love traveling, and I'm a IT engineer. I work in IT, and I could make this answer very long, but let's keep it short.
Yeah. Now, the first question I would like to ask Vitas is, how did you save for this journey? See, like you've been traveling for a very long time. How does someone think about saving when it comes to an year long or more kind of journey?
So there's a number of ways how you can go about this. But my trick is that I always travel to the cheap countries. I don't travel to Switzerland or Italy or Spain. It's too expensive. So my travels have been to the cheaper countries, and in that way I can sustain myself way longer. So you go to Southeast Asia, you go to India, you go to Nepal, you go to South America. It's way cheaper than traveling North America, Australia, or Europe. So first thing would be to choose your travel destination wisely, so you can sustain yourself for, say, half a year or 1 year. Because, that's a big factor. And honestly, traveling to these countries can be very cheap. And usually people are very surprised that I didn't spend that much money traveling this long. So, and how to go about this? Yeah, definitely you need a buffer. You cannot have loans, or you need to build this freedom to say you have like at least 10,000 euro in your bank account. So you have some kind of a buffer.
And 10,000 euro means around 10 lakh in Indian rupees. Okay. And how long did it take you to save up all this money?
Didn't take that long, but I don't know, let's say half a year perhaps.
So you saved up for a year and you traveled for a year. And before we go to the next question, just so people know, how many places have you been to? Give us a number.
No, I cannot give you a number on top of my head, but I think, let's say 15 maybe.
Okay, 15 countries. And why I asked is because I know people who have been saying they travel a lot, but they travel in a way that they take a hotel and they stay in the spa, swim in the pool, and get back home. But the difference that what you are doing is basically you're staying in places for a very long time. You're going to the streets, you're understanding the culture, you're eating the food made by people there. So it's a very different way of traveling. You're really experiencing the land.
Yeah.
So the next question I have in mind is that didn't you feel worried about job security? Like I know Vitas has been working for Ericsson before he went for this long trip. Didn't you feel that when I come back, I'm going to have a hard time getting back into the job market? Or what would I put it in a resume? It's a long gap. How did you think about that?
I think that's one of the main things why people don't do it. It's number one, what you ask, like financial stuff. People don't have enough money saved. And number two is like being afraid, like, what's my resume gonna look like, and how am I gonna get back into it? I think that's the thing that is limiting people from traveling. And I don't think it's a valid concern. You can always find a new job. There's so many possibilities out there. And honestly, I wasn't that worried. I'm also a bit spoiled. I work in IT. I'm an engineer. And knowing how
The
demand is high, and just getting messages on LinkedIn with suggestions and proposals to start working here and there, I got really spoiled. So I really know that finding a job is not an issue. And I would encourage people also to travel more and not worry less, because it always works out in the end, right? Whatever you do, it always works out. It's just that we in our heads, we get stuck and we limit ourselves, and we fear this and that, and in the end we don't do what we wish or what we dream about, which is travel for some people.
Yeah, I think most problems are in your head. When time comes, some or a majority of problems solve itself. But when you explain it, the way I understand is that you need to have confidence in oneself.
Yes.
You need to feel like, I am going to make this happen. If you could think the other way too, and in that way you are more fear-driven. So you feel like this is, I'm not going to find a job. But the truth is, even if you stay at a workplace for a year or 1.5 years, you might lose the job.
Yeah.
So future is always unpredictable. You need to start understanding that, and you need to play with that uncertainty. How did you manage the logistics, such as accommodation, transportation, basically planning the whole trip? How did you think about that?
That's also a very common question that people ask. And honestly, when I began traveling, I went to India, as you know, and I had just 1 week planned in front of me, which was visit you in south of India, in Kerala, which I did. And I didn't have a plan. I didn't know what I was doing. So I would plan 1 week or 1 month ahead and sort of have an idea what I want to do. And it's really the best way to approach it. I think a lot of people make this mistake that they plan very detail oriented. This day we do this, with this day we do that, we book this, we do book that. Also a bad financial decision, because when you pre-book everything, you pay a huge premium. When you go to a place and negotiate for the price, or you ask a number of hotels or hostels or places how much they charge, you get way better deals. You meet locals. You feel the energy of the place. Do I like it here? Do I want to stay here 1 week? And do I want to go somewhere else? So that's why no planning, very limited planning and booking. But of course, it is one of the biggest hassles when you're on the road, because every day you don't know where you're gonna go and how you're gonna take the bus, where you're going to, especially in a foreign country, maybe you don't speak the language. It's so it is a big demand. But honestly, I would suggest people just don't care and go, and everything is gonna be clear when you arrive at your destination on what you would like to spend time on and what you would not want to spend. I would suggest people don't plan too much ahead.
So what I am hearing is most probably something against what people thought was the right way to travel. I know people who plan extremely a lot for trips, but I would say those only works for shorter trips. If you're going to a single destination, maybe you can plan quite a lot and you might get a good deal. But when you go to multiple destinations for a longer time, it's very, very hard to plan, because things are always changing. And in that way, that strategy works extremely well. I remember him coming to Kerala, and then he was going to Goa, and from there he was looking at what is the best next destination to go, and it just went on for 1.5 years. So it worked out for him. So whoever who wants to go for a long trip, take advice.
Just do it.
Just do it, that as well. So the next question is, what were some of the biggest mental challenges you face during the journey. It could be like on the way you feel, oh, I am traveling alone. So I'm giving an example. Like, but what are those mental challenges you had?
I think it's like a challenge and a blessing at the same time, because you are so far away from home, from your friends, from your family, and you're like so disconnected from your routines, your job, your society, politics, economy, everything. So in a way, it's a blessing. You're like in a completely different world. Everything is amazing. You love it. You're enjoying it. Like every single day is different from what it was yesterday. But at the same time, it can get very overwhelming. You're surrounded by strangers. You don't speak the language. You don't know the culture. You're like, and yeah, maybe things get difficult from times, and you don't have security, and you don't have a home. You don't have people to rely upon. So you need to be strong mentally. But in these sort of positions, you kind of train yourself to be strong mentally. Like, what if something happens? Well, how are you gonna react? How is it gonna be? Like, in the during New Year's 2023, like my wallet goes stolen, and my bag got stolen with a lot of stuff in it. Like, so I think how people react to a situation like that is
Big factor.
big factor, yeah. So I could have panicked and like, but I didn't. I just like I immediately I ordered new credit cards from my bank, and I got a new wallet. I got a
Figured it
new
out.
bag. Like everything worked out completely fine. So
Yeah, and what about like, you go somewhere and have you ever felt that people don't understand you? Like you go to a new land and they look at you as a foreign person coming to the land. And there is always a gap between the locals and you. Have you ever thought about those feelings? Has it been a mental challenge for you when you go to a new place?
yeah, I think a lot of the countries in Latin America, especially when you don't speak Spanish, which I did pick up, but initially very limited Spanish. So definitely coming to Mexico or Guatemala and meeting the locals and being very misunderstood. Yeah, that is a challenge. But the more that's the good part about traveling so long is like you immerse yourself in the culture, in the language, you pick it up, you start understanding how things are working there. And in the end, you just join the energy, the vibe, and you either love it or you don't, and you leave the country, you change to a new destination.
Yes, exactly.
So, yeah.
Yeah, as long as you look at it from a point of view of people trying to understand other people, and there would be misunderstandings, and this is how life and world is, and this is how it has always been. I think you will find peace with it, and you'll try to enjoy more of the journey. The next question is, how did you stay grounded and maintain a sense of purpose while you're constantly moving from a place to place?
Yeah, good question. Because you don't have a routine when you're traveling. So integrating some kind of a routine is very helpful. Like journaling, like trying to do it a couple of times a week at least, and like to understand where you're at, what's going in your life, how's the travel going. Also like some kind of a meditation or a yoga practice. Like I did my yoga teacher training in India. And after that, I tried practicing every morning when I was traveling in India and Nepal. And I think I also met my girlfriend in India, in Kerala, in an ashram. And traveling with her was very helpful and very grounding as well. So having a person that you can rely upon and be together with, and a person that will hold you accountable is very helpful. So solo traveling is amazing. It's very rewarding. It's full of freedom, but having someone secure and reliable next to you is very grounding and it's very helpful because
Rewardful as
I
well.
think I might have been a bit crazy after 6 months in India alone. Like it's a bit too much, maybe.
Yeah,
But
because
people do it; they manage themselves.
because I feel like people always need connection wherever they are. Even if they are alone traveling, they would really want people to like treat them in a friendly way, closer. You need to build connections, and sometimes it's very hard because you're solo and you are always on your own, and other people have their own things happening. So if you go to a local place, they might be working, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you are on a travel, so it always makes it hard to spend time, and the plans doesn't always mix together well. But have you ever felt like when you are traveling, when you look, for example, like Instagram or things happening on the other side of the world where you left,
Yeah.
where there was maybe certain kind of stability?
Mm.
Have you ever felt like, oh my God, I'm missing out on that? Or not exactly the work per se, but something
Yeah.
about it. Do you miss when you look from the other side?
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes, Christmas. I miss a couple of Christmas, 2 times in a row. And that's like a highlight back in the West, like gathering with the family, spending some quality time and, being like, I don't know, in India where they don't, where they do, but where was it that we didn't really celebrate Christmas? Well, anyway, like in some
Not with the
countries, the
family.
cultures are gonna be so different. So yeah, having a family to come back to and to spend some quality time is definitely something you miss after traveling for.
And I have always wondered, how did you still keep contact with rest of the world? Because you are on your own adventure, right? And you are going on your own path. How did you like manage to talk to, for example, your parents, your friends? What was the thinking behind that?
Actually, the connection stayed very strong, and since I was the only one like going for an adventure like that in my family, everyone was like very excited to hear from me, and
It's
as
happening.
long as I'm sending pictures, they want to see more, and they're very happy for me. And people are just busy in their life with work or family and this and that. So I guess I got a lot of support from my family, and they were all very encouraging and supportive. And I did manage to have very good connection. It's just you have a lot of free time when you travel. You just have to manage the time zone differences.
Yeah, and like I could say that we have common friend groups where, and Vitas was always calling, so we kind of understood what he's going through and where he's at this point of time. So you need to put effort as well, right? I feel like during a journey, world could take you in a certain place, and you would be like sometimes blown away by the new things. But it's also important to nurture your roots. So you have a lot more things happening even when you come back.
Yes, yes.
So what was the most unexpected lesson you learned about yourself when you were traveling?
That's a good question, but maybe just the fact that I've been living out of a backpack and a normal day pack, and where's my computer and my headphones or whatever. But essentially, these two bags is the only thing you need. Like, like releasing all your material possessions and just traveling with a backpack for a year and a half, and realizing that you don't need much to be content, to be happy, to sustain yourself, to survive and to thrive and to be happy. So that's a big, I guess,
Lesson.
or insight. And
It comes back to something I read. I mean, it's not what I read. It's something I read, but also for universal truth that happiness comes from inside, right? It doesn't come from possessing materials or like wealth.
yes,
A lot of connections and relationship does have its own ability to make you feel worthy and happy. But also, end of the day, it should come from inside.
Yes.
It should come from your viewpoint of the world and see like you are treated well by the world, or you are contributing in a nice way, or you are learning quite a lot. So I feel like travel always brings that up, because you cannot carry everything that you own. You cannot carry your home on your shoulder. So you need to start playing with the idea that you can still be happy if you have two bags, as long as you are on an adventure. You are experiencing life very close, and it's not 9 to 4 maybe. So I like that. It's very good insight. How has traveling for an extended period influenced your viewpoint of the world and your personal beliefs?
I think I stopped identifying myself. I'm originally Lithuanian, and I'm also a Swedish citizen.
Yeah.
So traveling this much and relating to so many people from all over the world, like Indians, Pakistanis, Nepalese, like Mexicans, Guatemalans, Colombians, whoever, you kind of relate to everyone, and you see that people are very similar all over the place, and they want the same things in life. And I kind of sort of stopped identifying myself as I'm Lithuanian, I'm Swedish, I'm this or that. I'm like I'm a world citizen, I would say, and I'm in for humanity and that sort of thing. That but also we're living at very unprecedented times, that we are able to travel this much and explore this much. Like our parents couldn't do this before us. So it's very new. So whoever is doing this kind of a travel now is kind of exploring this new lifestyle, this, you could say, digital nomad.
Yes.
And without having a base, a home. And that's very new. That's something that so little amount of people. Yeah, so we're kind of like discovering it as we're living, and trying to figure out how this works, because I believe digital nomads and people who are traveling long term are just gonna keep increasing with the time, and just gonna be maybe quite normal in the future.
Yes, I would say especially in a certain age group, it would increase quite rapidly. And one of the things that you talked about as feeling like citizen of the world, it also brings us back to nature, in a sense like we are all one. Doesn't matter how we look, doesn't matter even with cultural interpretations and influences. People still are very human. And for example, like when you move to Europe or you move to like Latin America, and when you see these people and you see the kindness and innocence and anger and like all human emotions, you understand like, oh wow, everyone is same. As if you are genuinely wanting to connect with someone, it is possible wherever you are.
Yes.
And that's a very strong insight about life. I would say like even in the future, when it comes to times when you need to make choices, this kind of lessons influence it, because you have a very broadened mind. So were there any cultural practices or traditions you encountered that changed your view on spirituality or well-being, or as a person looking at the world?
Yeah, good question. So the primary reason of traveling to India, to your home country, was to dive deeper into the spirituality and learn a bit more about Hinduism. And my goal was to do a yoga teacher training, and not just for the physical yoga asana practice, but to actually dive deeper into the philosophy part of it. And we got introduced to that. We got introduced to Bhagavad Gita, and the holy book of Hinduism. It's like the Bible of Christianity.
Yeah.
And we got introduced into Advaita Vedanta philosophy, and the big concepts of Brahman, of Atman, of
Non-duality.
non-duality, Patanjali Yoga Sutras, a small introduction of that,
Mhm.
Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, all the yoga forms.
Mhm.
And I think for a month I was practicing yoga and living in an ashram where I also met my girlfriend. I started doing bhakti, like chanting and everything that the ashram was requiring. And so I really loved that part of my journey, I would say, because primary to that, I was very deep into meditation and going to Vipassana, 10-day silent meditation retreats, which is a very big experience, a very big trip. And you go very deep, but you miss all of this other side of bhakti yoga or this other side of spirituality.
Devotion, in a sense.
Devotion and karma yoga of like making everyday action your work as devotion as well. So just being introduced to all of these concepts in this ashram was like going to yoga kindergarten or a preschool, and learning the basics. And I was like, oh, wow, this is amazing. I didn't know you could look in the world from this perspective. So I definitely feel it made a huge impact in my life and broadened my perspective on how to look at this spiritual things overall, I would say.
Yeah, and like from my point of view, Europe, US, or developed countries have this huge problem with identifying themselves to the nature, or like where do we belong in this world, or what is the purpose? Why are we here? In developing countries or underdeveloped places, people are working so hard on a regular basis, so they don't have so much time to contemplate, especially when they are young. So I feel like the knowledge that we seek, for example, the knowledge someone in Europe or US they seek, they are somewhere else. And sometimes when you go there, for example, you went to India and you started chanting and you started understanding karma yoga, it kind of like gives more meaning to life and answer some of the fundamental questions you had in mind. So traveling is not just about seeing places and taking pictures. It's also about deepening you as a person and making you understand more and more about the world you live in.
Yes, definitely. I agree.
Me too. So the next question is, can you share a moment from your travel that had a profound impact on your spiritual growth or self understanding? And it could be, I understand you mentioned about Shivananda ashram and the time there, but was there any peak point? I mean, it might not be even in India, but have it really changed you as a person?
Well, maybe what comes to mind immediately when you ask is my time when I was in Nepal. After India, we went to Nepal and we did a Vipassana 10-day meditation retreat in a city called Lumbini. And Lumbini is the birthplace of Lord Buddha himself. And we timed it perfectly because during that week, I believe it was March or April, it was full moon week, and in that particular date, it's considered Buddha's birthday. So we did a 10-day Vipassana meditation technique that is discovered. Like this is the technique that Buddha taught to the people of India of that time, in his birthplace, during his
time.
Yeah, and I believe my spiritual insights during that 10-day retreat were very deep and very profound. And something just to name, maybe just that really struck me, is that just sitting there in a silent practice and following your breath and scanning the body and just noticing how incredibly talkative your mind is It's like constantly talking. And so this insight struck me that I said to myself, 98% of the time I'm stuck in my head. And 98% of the time the things that my mind is thinking about is not true. It's not representing the objective reality. It's just spam. Like it's just not
Made up
garbage.
of-
Yeah.
yes, yeah.
So it was just that very hard challenge and thing to accept that, hey, I'm always in my head, I'm always stuck in my thoughts, and I'm always stuck in nonsense. Like just acknowledging that we're always like lost in some babble.
Very deep. Yeah.
And I was like, okay, just observe your breath. That's all you need to do, because otherwise you're just lost.
and I would say like life would happen anyway,
Yeah.
right? And you might be overthinking about what would happen in the future, and you might be actually missing what the beauty lies in front of you.
Yeah.
I was talking last day to one of my colleagues, and I was telling her, like, one of the things she should actually prioritize and practice is being able to not think. Because as children, we are constantly put in front of information. We are taught to learn things, and we are given a job, and we forgot how to control our own mind. And the mind controls you, and the mind sometimes makes up toxic fluff.
Yes.
And then you suffer because of your own thoughts. So it's very very strange way of looking at the world, like not being able to enjoy it as a child. So I really like the way you put it.
I
So
think it also gave me confidence and like self-confidence, just knowing that whenever anxiety comes up, I know that it's not a reality. It's just my mind, like as always, coming up with this nonsense. So it's like you can always go back to this like tranquility or this peace in your head that just breathe, just be here, like
Exactly.
whatever is happening is fine, like, so it gave a lot of peace to just not get lost. Or you still get lost, I still get lost all the time, but I'm just at peace with it. I'm like, this is what my mind does all the time. It's nothing new, don't listen to it. Like it doesn't necessarily mean it's the objective reality.
and
It's
don't
very
take it too
subjective.
seriously.
Yeah.
I would also add a little bit to that by saying that the things you're constrained to is also part of your mind. Like you feel like this is, for example, like I'm going to go for a travel for 1.5 years. When I come back, there is no job. That's also a constraint put by your mind based on what you've heard and seen. It's not
Exactly,
real.
yeah.
So it also, by breathing and meditating and experiencing this kind of very insightful things, you will understand there is much more broader level you can play at.
Yes.
Now we are going to the end of the interview. So one of the last questions I would like to ask is that, what is that really inspired you to do this journey? What is that kind of drive that is within you that wants to kind of like pack things up and start moving?
Yeah, good question. But I think I was always a rebel growing up, and I didn't necessarily like the constraints that people were putting me into. And the society and the expectations, you should get a job, you should get married, you should buy a house. And growing up a rebel and not backing down and still being a rebel while I'm grown up, I think has definitely played a huge role in the way that everyone that say, no, you shouldn't do it, I'm like, I'm gonna do it. Bye. It's like, I'm just gonna do this because I really felt the inside of me calling. And you kind of know, your intuition tells you what's the right thing to do in your life. So for me, traveling for that period of time was such a big drive and pull that it was magnetic. There was like no internal conflict happening, so to say. I really just wanted to travel, and I just gave up. I was like, okay, let's just go. So I felt like life, or wherever, however you want to put it, guides you and lets you know what you need to do, and you feel a big pull to do it. And when you decide to do it, there's no conflict. There's like, but maybe we shouldn't. There was none of that. I was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's commit to this. So I think that was the big driver, just to break all societal norms, break all the patterns, and just go to a completely different part of the world and learn and observe and see and live. And I think a lot of people should do that. A lot of young people should do that. They're like confused. They don't know what they want. They don't know if they should work or study, and then they just start studying something they don't enjoy, you know. So I recommend to all young people, just go travel, save a bit of money, go travel to a cheap country, and take a break from life, take a break from running all the time. I think that was also a big driver, because I was like, gymnasium, study, jump into work 1 year, work, and then jump straight to university, work, like study, straight from university, work. I was like, okay, I just need to
Pause.
chill. I just need to. Why are we always like hyper effective? And
Yeah, I think a few things since you talked about it. One thing is that people are always worried about the future. You know, like, and people are always in some level in the future. They feel like, you know, if we don't do this, our life is at stake in the future. But maybe that's not the way to think if you are looking forward to a bit more peaceful way of living, because future is always going to be in the future, and it's always changing. Sometimes you are not able to completely predict or plan it. Yeah, and you know, like, I feel like young people have to travel also to get perspective of life and the world, because a lot of your perspective comes from generations before you, and it's outdated. You know, like, and you don't create your own perspective to build a worldview. You know, what you like, what you don't like, what are the things you need to break, what are the things you need to like deepen. So to build that, you need to meet more people. You need to challenge yourself, you know. So I feel like you are in also, from my point of view, you're also like doing things that put you in a hard position, so you create your own strength that you would be able to use in different situations later. Okay, so
but also to top that, like, by just traveling, you eliminate this, I have to work, I have to study 8 hours, 9 hours a day, and all of a sudden you have 10 hours and you're like, oh wow, like you can create new neural pathways in your brain. Because you're living your life so much differently outside, you know, traveling and
actually being in the wild, experiencing life, not like an office with a screen.
Go do yoga, go do meditation, go on a shamanic journey in Latin America. Like, everything is gonna change you, and in the end, like, the perspectives are gonna broaden a lot, and I think anxiety is gonna reduce a lot, because we're just so stuck in our head.
And they become stronger. So that also reduces anxiety, because you know you can handle life.
Exactly.
Now to the final question. What lies ahead? I don't know, maybe you haven't planned ahead, but what is next for you? Would you be traveling more? How do you think about the future?
I think, as I said, like, or maybe I didn't say, but life comes in chapters, in energy waves. So for me, like, travel was one big chapter, and it felt like, yes, let's do it. I love it. It felt amazing. But I have to be honest, in the ending of my travels, I was in Latin America, in amazing countries, Ecuador, Costa Rica, Colombia. and I felt bored. I was like, I'm tired of going from one jungle to another, from one national park to another, from traveling bus all the time. Honestly, I just want to work. I want to build something. I want to be productive. So I really feel like one chapter closes and another chapter opens, and that's how life or intuition or higher power, whatever you want to call it, is guiding you along life. It's like now travel, I don't feel like traveling at all. Like I'm done. I had too much travel, you know. So it's guiding me that, hey, like your dharma, your purpose is not to travel anymore. That chapter finished. Please jump onto the next chapter of your life, which is work, which is perhaps family, which is perhaps settling down and doing something. You know, like you got a lot of lessons in your travels and your experiences, and maybe it's time to integrate it and share it around, you know, so you can make a positive change for the world and for your society, for those around you. I think that's the new chapter like that I'm starting.
That's very good, and also kind of putting in perspective that balance is important, and also change is impossible to avoid, which includes even mindsets. You know, travel has been the core of my being for a very long time, but now it's time to change that and experience how it feels to take responsibility, or like, you know, be deep rooted in a culture, or build a family. So it's a very in my opinion, it's a very like a traveler who are well traveled who comes to that point, because you have seen things, you have experienced things. Now it's time to implement and integrate.
Exactly. And to add something to that, I also think like a lot of people are like very young in their lives. They go straight for career, for the money, which I was also considering. I was like, like what it was like. My first travel I did, a solo travel, 7 months in Southeast Asia, was 2019. And I remember before embarking on the travel, I was like, maybe I shouldn't travel. Maybe I should buy more Bitcoin because I know it's gonna grow a lot. But so I was debating, was like, no, like because when you travel, you're gonna develop spiritually. I hold this opinion now that if you don't develop spiritually and you develop materialistically in money, you get so lost. Like we see so many people in advanced age, or like 30s, 40s, stuck because very early in their life, their priority was work, career, money, party, girlfriends. They get stuck in those games. But if you prioritize spirituality early on, like this is gonna give you such a big foundation to stand upon, so that you don't get into this midlife crisis, I would say.
And also like not just beer with life, but have a blast leaving life. So that's a big deal, I would say. But we have come to the end of podcast. If you are interested in knowing what Vitas is up to, I would put his social handles below if he's interested. He has very good pictures of his travels. You guys should check it out. And that's it for this episode. See you guys next time. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.